I was thinking I've got to tell you some things about Korea, and a good teacher always likes to pretest, see where people are. And I'm thinking that on a 1 to 10 scale about Korea, I think I'm a 10.
전 세계의 모든 역사를 통틀어 봐도 한국만큼 다사다난했던 역사는 찾기 힘들 것입니다. 위로는 중국과 러시아, 아래로는 일본이 위치해 있기 때문에 위아래로 적국의 침략이 끊이질 않는 말 그대로 한반도의 역사는 오랜 시간 동안 고래 싸움에 새우등 터지기 일쑤였습니다. 하지만 아이러니하게도 끊이지 않는 침략 속에서 한국사 속 왕조들은 몇백 년 동안이나 존속되면서 끈질기면서도 강인한 모습을 수차례 보여줬는데요. 다른 외국인들은 주목하지 않은 이러한 한국 역사만이 가지고 있는 특징에 주목한 한 외국인 교수가 있습니다. 5,000년이라는 매우 깊은 역사를 가지고 있는 한국 역사에서 타국의 침략을 받지 않은 적은 단 한 번도 없습니다. 북쪽에서는 당나라와 수나라, 청나라를 비롯한 중국 왕조의 침입과 유목 민족인 거란족과 몽골족의 침략이 수시로 이루어졌고, 아래쪽인 남쪽에서는 일본의 왜구들의 침략과 임진왜란이라는 큰 전쟁까지 벌어질 정도로 한반도는 전쟁이 벌어지기 일쑤였습니다. 심지어는 타국과의 전쟁에서 패배의 왕조가 멸망한 적도 있는데요. 하지만 그럴 때마다 한민족 특유의 단결력으로 뭉쳐 외적의 침입을 격퇴한다는 점은 역사를 공부하는 외국인들에게는 신선한 충격으로 다가왔습니다. 이에 대한 근거로 무려 약 1000년이라는 어마어마한 역사를 자랑하는 신라를 비롯해 임진왜란과 병자호란이라는 연이은 큰 전쟁을 치렀지만 500년 넘게 유지된 조선 왕조를 들 수 있습니다. 이렇게 한국의 역사는 숱한 외국의 침략에도 불구하고 한민족의 역사를 꿋꿋이 써내려갔다는 점으로 설명이 가능한데요. 한국문화 전도사로 유명한 마크 피터슨 교수는 하버드 대학의 교수입니다. 하버드 대학교 로스쿨의 친일계 교수인 마크 램지어가는 일본군 위안부 비하 논문에 대해 공개적으로 비판을 한 적이 있을 정도로 그는 한국의 진심인 외국인 교수인데요. 그는 외국인 교수들과 교사들을 초빙해 한국의 역사에 대한 강의를 시작했습니다.
Please welcome Dr. Peterson.
We're live. How are you? You're here to learn about Korea, huh? How many of you have been to Korea? Oh, good. Some of you. How many went to Korea with the Korea Society Teachers Program? Oh, you're the only one. So you see, let's go from the bottom. I've got the ancient states down here, the mythological, oh boy, did I misspell that? You've got the mythological states of Pakhyakose and Tangun. I think I have this up here. Yeah, it's up here. These are two of the early myths. Hyakose and Tangun are two of the important myths for founding of Korea. Then you've got the three Han tribes that are prehistoric. And then you have the three kingdoms, Shilla, Paekje, and Koguryo. So if we talk about Korean history in general terms and the Chosun dynasty in its context, before the Chosun dynasty was the three kingdoms, Paekje, Shilla, and Koguryo. And of those three kingdoms, Shilla was the strongest eventually and conquered the other two, and that's where you have the unified Shilla period in 668 onward. And then you have the Koryo dynasty from 918 to 1392. So in other words, all of the pre-Chosun dynasty stuff is fairly simple. Korea has a very interesting history in that you only have three major dynasties. From the unified Shilla, before that you have smaller kingdoms, but from a unified period only, you have the Shilla dynasty, the Koryo dynasty, and then the Chosun dynasty. And before the unified period, you have the three kingdoms. Now, how does that compare with other countries that you know? When you look at the dynastic history, as you look at the memorizing the dynasties of all these other kingdoms, it's usually quite a long list, isn't it? And the lifespan of a dynasty, well, some can be very, very short. Some don't last beyond the founder. For example, the Qin dynasty at the founding of China only lasted as long as Qin Shi Huangdi. And then you have the Han dynasty, and it rolls forward from there. Let me ask you a question about lifespans of dynasties. If you think of a dynasty as a living organism, how long does a dynasty live? And the answer is, if you look at most dynasties in East Asia, in the Middle East, in Europe, anywhere you can find a dynasty, they tend to have a lifespan of somewhere between 200 and 300 years. It's almost like talking about a human being living between 60 and 80 years, sometimes at 100 as an outlier, It's almost as if a dynasty has a lifespan. It's born, it goes through a teenage period, perhaps, a mature period, an aging period, and then it dies. And most dynasties in most places of the world, look it up, are around 250 years, plus or minus a generation or two. Korean dynasties are how long? 400, 500 years. The Chosun dynasty that we're focusing on was 518 years. The Koryo dynasty was 474 years. The Shilla dynasty from unification was 276 years, but from the Three Kingdoms Shilla through unification was 1,000 years. So what does this say about Korean history in general? It indicates a certain degree of stability, does it not? We have these long-lived dynasties.
한국 왕조의 특징을 설명한 그는 한국에 대한 자신의 생각을 전했습니다.
If we can step away from the 20th century, and I think Korean historians are starting to do this now, because Korea today, South Korea at least, is not an unhappy place. It's not an unhappy place by any means. South Korea today is a very happy place. I mean, it's successful. Society works. There's wealth. There's a successful economy. They've done things. They've hosted the Olympics, for heaven's sakes. They've hosted the World Cup soccer things. They do things on an international scale. In recent years, UNESCO has designated certain places in Korea as World Heritage Sites. How did the Koreans respond to that? Wow, yeah, we get some recognition. Yeah, this place, that place is a World Heritage Site. I think it's really interesting to look at the UNESCO designations in Korea and contrast that to the UNESCO designations in America. Do you know how people in the Southwest feel about UNESCO? Get the United Nations out of here. They're not telling us what to do. 21st century, Korea is going to become a much more confident country, and I think the history is going to be rewritten. And in fact, a lot of younger scholars are starting to look at things a little differently.
앞으로도 한국의 역사가 널리 알려지길 바라며 영상 마치겠습니다. 이번 영상은 여기까지입니다. 구독과 좋아요, 알람 설정 부탁드립니다. 앞으로 더 좋은 영상으로 찾아뵙도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.